Please welcome Chaehan.
I hope it works. So that was actually a picture of, does anybody know? Oh, you know. Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, so now, is it unmuted? Yeah, got it. Thank you. Thank you so much for organizing this, to the organizers, Lizzie and Jamie, Luca. And let me start by asking a question to all of you. So how many would not like it if I would call them out and come here to the front and give a short self-introduction to all of that? How many would not like it? All right. Oh, okay, half of them. Okay, so that's called stage fright, and it's actually underlined by anxiety. I, as a former professor, don't have that stage fright anymore, but right now I'm still feeling pressure because as a professor, I used to have 3 hours for giving a lecture, and now I have to compress it in 10 minutes. All right, so I try really as hard as I can, but please bear with me. It's going to be really short, and I really try to compress it so at the end I can show a short demo. All right, so my journey is about from being an academic professor to founding an AI startup, and it's for mental health. So first of all, what motivated me? During COVID, I was observing my students literally every semester that the depression increased, and 67% of college students had mental health issues growing during Corona. So reason is relatively clear for me that there was no socializing opportunities. There's a lot more to say, but my observation of myself was that, you know, usually when people talk about mental health issues, it's always about those people, them, and never about us. And actually, I had the same thing because I thought, like, you know, I'm a professor, I'm successful, whatever. But all of a sudden, 2017, after my first year of professor, I had insomnia. And I didn't know why, but, well, during that time I learned AI. But I realized after a few years later, oh, that was actually the time after my father passed away. So for me, there was an interesting insight. And another insight was when I started talking about, I first founded a nonprofit for social anxiety, that was during COVID, and then a profit for general anxiety. Then people really opened up to me, and really, many people told me, oh, you know, I'm going to a therapist like for 10 years. Oh, I have this online therapist for 20 years. And everybody, or in the US, you know, half of them took drugs and asked me about their medication. And the interesting thing is I realized, okay, there are some people who have the luck to have a good therapist, but many are not. And there's a stigma, and there's maybe some money, but it's also a hassle to find the right therapist. So that all motivated me to formulate a goal, which was to help those people who have anxiety, not give them therapy, but just an easier version, a light version, which is just talking it out. Talking it out means like talking about your personal problems, venting, and just releasing your stress pressure by that. So that's the idea. And then normally you have to wait until the end of the talk until you get takeaways, but I really want to contribute to the community. So here's my 4 takeaways I had so far, which I find useful if any of you thinks about founding your own startup and maybe not making the same mistakes I did. First of all, prevent undue credit. Means that before you bring people on board, you have to think about how you can avoid that they take undue credit. because people confuse working on a project with doing the project. And that happened to me. Very short example, there was a student who made a prototype. It was very, very buggy. It took a lot of my time and finally was a success. But at the end, the student thought he did it all by himself. That doesn't happen in professional environments where every programmer knows, you know, there's a product manager, there's a good designer, also the project manager. There are so many people who are contributing. But if you have people who have no professional experience like that, that can happen, and you have to prevent it by, well, by NDAs, whatever. Okay, second thing is salami-style delays. So does everybody understand what I mean by that? So, okay, so it's like a running joke. I was an IT project manager in my first life, and so the developer says, oh, it's almost finished. Just, you know, one more week. Then next week I have it. And then next week, yeah, no, it's just, something else coming up, another week. Okay, so you end up like with several weeks of delays. And for me, it happened because I had a software architect on board who was voluntary, and it made 1.5 years of delays because he gave me salami delays of 3 months. And I'm not complaining about him. Very important. I'm actually thinking it's not his mistake, but my mistake. Because as soon as you experience the second delay with somebody, you have to have a sit down. And maybe it hints that you don't have the right incentives, all right? All right. Then, architecture misfit. So I got an architecture by a professional and software architect who proposed a microservices architecture. It was totally redundant, made it slow, and didn't solve the main problem of how to connect the audio and video channel details. The main thing is I didn't do what I learned as a project manager, which is I had to question the software architecture. That you ask that senior software architect with 10 years or 20 years of experience, what were the alternatives and what were the reasons against? If you get an answer like, yeah, okay, there's A, B, and C, but there's no reason for that, you have no choice, you have to choose D, then they clearly have no experience. You know, real software architects, before they answer, they ask you 10 questions or 20 questions, and then they say, okay, you have these options, but they have these pros and cons, and we have to clarify, you know, and they are so eager to understand your real needs. That's a good software architect, and not like who makes it black and white. All right, and then finally at the end I got a really good chatbot framework by a post, I think, on LinkedIn or any of my 6 newsletters I read. And then I tried it, and I threw away the whole remaining code and reprogrammed it in 8 days. So that was my rescue. What's the takeaway here? The takeaway is, okay, first of all, you have to stay connected by the news. But what I mean by that is not just read and scroll, but clone that GitHub repo. And if there is a bug, write a GitHub issue, and then you interact with them, and then you connect with the community, and then you see if it's a really good project or not. And the other thing is, have the courage also, you know, to throw away stuff. Okay. Now, with that in mind, what was the first design of the chatbot? It started at 2021 when I did a research project when I was professor with 2 students. And it was really, really, really bare bones. Think about 2021 was 1 year before ChatGPT came out. So it barely could talk, but it was kind of working. And I published, that took 2 years. But what I didn't publish, what you get now is the feedback I got. The participants complained about 3 problems, pain points. One was, at that time, was really high response latency. So the prototype I had from a student was 50 seconds, you know, response time. So I made 2 design decisions. One was to replace the lip syncing, which was really, really slow, and ran on the GPU locally. And then the second is to put the GPU in the cloud. So that reduced the time from 50 seconds to 2.5 seconds, so 20 times faster. The second was lack of memory, and so I took MongoDB for memory retention, but that was not actually the real problem. The problem was actually how to use it in the next conversation. And the third thing was limited understanding. You have to think, 2021, you were as like models. You know, I was like blown away, and I kind of bragged, you know, I have a model of 1 billion parameters. And it could barely understand you, you know. When you said, do you like eating hot dogs? Yeah, I like eating hot dogs. When I said, hey, do you like eating dogs? Oh yeah, I like eating dogs, they're so tasty. And so couldn't really distinguish it. Anyways, what I did is I made a huge decision to throw away these models and go to the LLM APIs, and end of 2023. At that time, they were still too slow, but I made a bet in the future that it will only take a few months until they get faster, and it did after half a year. And I used LangChain, so I could switch quickly between all LLMs and benchmark every LLM every month, again and again. But I got free session management, session history management. All right, so that was the initial design, and then the real design, that was like my thing, which like how to design with psychology. So I got really good feedback from basically friends who were eager to test it out thoroughly, and one of them was just interrupts. So when you say I have to think about, and then the chatbot immediately interrupted. So it was, it didn't distinguish between, you know, pausing a sentence and continuing, and I stop here. So now I didn't know at that time that there was a thing called VAD, voice activity detection, and it actually manages all these things like let's see, wait, and so on, which actually just are saying that you continue a sentence. And once you slice it into the chatbot, it's managing many of these mistakes. Okay, then a very difficult complaint was it doesn't understand me better when I'm going to the next conversation. So I realized saving the whole conversation and just throwing into the context window the next conversation doesn't really solve it. It just can remember what you said, but it doesn't really make it better. So what I did is I extracted relevant information. And from my point of view, it's I just give you one example. The rest is my trade secret. Like psychologically interesting is inner conflicts somebody has. All right, and then it doesn't talk deeper. That was really the hardest challenge, because what does it mean that we have deep conversations in our life? And one of the things, what I realized is people want to talk about a problem that's not superficially, but they want to dive into it. But what does it mean? So I realized people don't just want to slice on a problem, but elaborate problems. And that led me to the idea that I create a conversational journey. And I implemented it. Also a trade secret, but I can tell you, you could implement it with the #1 buzzword in AI, agentic AI. But I found a way which is not by agentic AI, which is faster. All right, so now, so that was the major breakthrough I had December last year, which was this conversational journey. And I didn't waste any time and incorporated the startup on January 1st this year. All right, now having that now in place, I started now with reaching out for the market this month, and I've been already doing Google Ads campaigns, but it's been very challenging. Many reasons. One is Google changed the way they do conversion tracking. There was only a tag for event, then there was a Google Tag Manager, and then there was a Tag Manager and a link tracker, and so on, and they changed it back. Anyways, then there were some countries who had very high click rates, but not engaging. And then finally, you know, from 1,000 impressions a day, I get about 15 who go onto the landing pages. From these 15, there are about 6 who fill out the form. And from these 6 who fill out the form, only about on average like 3 actually are making a conversation. And you might think that's not bad, 3 conversations a day. It's about 100 a month. But the problem is there's another funnel from these who are having a conversation. Many are just testing out how it talks. Then there are those who just have dirty talks. And it's great because I have some summary logging function. And whenever there is some dirty talk, it just makes 5 stars. So I can easily scrape it, which talks at. But anyways, and then there is those who want to talk, and they're starting conversation. And then I realized there are actually many who want but cannot articulate it. And that's the #1 problem I'm facing right now. And I met a clinical psychologist who has been practicing 20 years here in Melbourne, and she said, well, I know that because adults come to me, every week, and they are not able to talk about their personal problems because they lack even the vocabulary of emotions. They don't distinguish. So I feel bad, I'm down, or I'm good, and that's it. Okay. I could have another lecture on that. I have a Ph.D. in psychology and did a lot of psychology lecture, but that's another day. Conclusion. Really try to get to the demo. So first of all, now LLMs are not the problem anymore. That means not only are they fast, but also you can use them with agent frameworks, and they allow to shape conversational behavior. And they have a great world understanding. Each of them. Then, still, I'm not very satisfied with chatbot technology. First of all, the voice activity detection, I think, is not that great because it has to know it should wait sometimes when somebody says, OK, or I see, but sometimes it should not wait. And then there are text-to-speech bursts and response latency. So all of a sudden, you have to wait like 3 to 5 seconds. You don't know why. And then the speech-to-text doesn't suppress background sound very well. Still, I think the main and biggest challenge is to teach a chatbot the psychology. What I mean by that is the goal is not just to give empathy, because then it would just say, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. And how are your feelings about it? And because the main challenge I get from investors or so, how is it better than ChatGPT? And the point is you can have some empathetic listener situation with one system prompt, but no matter what you try, it will be somehow repetitive, and it will get stuck in a loop where it's just not getting out. And if you can change that, let me know, because I've tried it for 2 years. And what I want is not like just empathy, but a good listening experience. And what does it mean? That you have to dive deeper in the conversation. And that means 2 things. For me, in my observation, you have to reflect on a problem from different angles. And you have to also nudge the human to think deeper. Not only you push it in. And you have to nudge the human also to start coping with the situation better. Okay, so that's what I think is all about conversational experiences we have to think about. And that's not a technical problem anymore, but it's a problem of how different people think differently about having a good conversational experience. And that's really difficult. All right, I want to reach out. I want you to reach out to me if you can give elaborate feedback on conversational experience. What I mean by that is, it would be great if you had anxiety. And yeah, it's so funny. Last Friday, I had a conversation with 2 researchers in psychology from Swinburne, and they wanted to use my chatbot for training their clinical students. And I said, yeah, that's great, but I also really want to apply it for anxiety. And then I said, how about loneliness? We have a loneliness project. I said, yeah, loneliness is really great. And I noticed the people, students around us were like, what, loneliness is great? Yeah. So I said things like, oh, loneliness is a great topic. I love it, Anyways, yeah, so I mean, like, if you're a coach, if you're a trainer, if you're good in communicating, if you're a high school teacher, if you just have the experience of talking with many people and understanding from different people, then it would be great to test my chatbot from that experience. Second thing, if you are a cloud engineer or a DevOps and have experience with scaling chatbots and I'm moving to AWS because I got a $5,000 credit, and if you can connect me to potential collaborators, then please contact me here, info@virtualfriend.chat. My website is virtualfriend.chat, and I want to also offer the opportunity for you to ask me questions. I think the most benefit you would get if you are changing jobs or thinking about changing your career, because I changed my career from being an IT consultant to doing a PhD in psychology and become a psychology lecturer, then to become a design professor, and then become an AI researcher, and then founding my own AI startup. So I know a little bit about transitioning. And I really like to share or help people and grow. And really, on Stack Overflow, I made a really, really big effort. And at 1 year, I was top 2% because I really, really tried to give a lot back to the community, which I believe in. If Lizzie allows, I would do a short demo. I really made it as short as possible.
Let's do the demo. Questions might have to wait.
All right, okay. So I apologize because I had a sound check, but it was not great. You have to listen really carefully. But what you will feel is at some point it says, let me understand your problem better. And from then on, you will see it's going into a conversational journey. And that's hard. And if you can do that with one system prompt with ChatGPT, let me know. I'll hire you.
Hello, Chaehan. I'm Casey. Welcome to Conversation One. Hey there. How's it going?
Hi, to be honest, I'm not good because I just had a breakup with my girlfriend.
Oh no. I'm really sorry to hear that, Chaehan. Breakups can be so tough. I want to talk about how you're feeling.
Well, I feel really lost and I don't know how I should continue because we were together for over a year.
That makes total sense, Chaehan. Being together for that long creates a lot of shared memories. What specific feelings are coming up for you right now?
It feels like, somebody pulled a rug under me and I feel kind of disoriented.
Let me understand you're disoriented after breakup better. Can you tell me more about the symptoms you are experiencing?
Now the conversation journey starts.
I don't want to get up. And then every time I see some stuff that belongs to her, it creates some emotions.
I see. So it's like a wave of emotions hitting you. Could you share what situations or thoughts tend to amplify those feelings?
I think it's those moments when we had really a good time together, when we had good conversations. And these are connected to these locations.
Those memories and places can really stir up emotions, especially after a breakup. I'm really sorry you're feeling this way. It sounds like the past is very present for you right now. Let's explore what's causing this disorientation for you. Do you have any idea what could be causing your symptoms of disoriented after breakup, or does anything else come to mind as the origin?
I think one thing is a shock, because just the week before we talked even about marriage. Talking about marriage meant like we were planning the future, and all of that is kind of now replaced by a void.
That void must feel really heavy, Chaehan. It's tough when something that once brought joy is now filled with emptiness. If I understand correctly, the potential origins of your disorientation stem from the disruption of good memories and the sense of a void left behind. Would you like to continue exploring these causes, or should we move on to finding some solutions?
Oh, let's definitely move on to solutions.
Any ideas what could help you overcome your disoriented after breakup problem?
I don't know. I thought about maybe making a short trip to some other place. But on the other side, I think I might feel also lonely.
Feeling lonely is totally normal after a breakup. One idea could be to reach out to friends or family for support. They can help distract you and provide some comfort. What do you think? Any other ideas popping in your mind?
No, I think that sounds like a good idea.
Awesome. Anyway, making some plans to hang out with friends can really help lift your spirits.
Okay, so that was it. And a full disclaimer, I shortened it. I know every demo you see, it's always like really optimized, but I shortened it. The waiting time, normally the waiting time is around 2 seconds now. And that's because there's so much going on in the background. But otherwise, that was not rehearsed. All right, so that was it. Thank you very much for listening, and please reach out to me. Thanks.